And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I have my guest today is someone that you might have seen in one of my episodes when I went to Israel to the house of Andy and Batya, and I interviewed Asher Guedalia here, where we talked about his brother, who was a commander in the elite counterterrorism of the Divan and one of the heroes that fell down on October 7 while defending our country, fighting inside of Israel against the hordes of Hamas terrorists that came in. Also, Ashel was one of the many Israelis that actually did reserves and just jumped in that day, left his family, was in the Bet Knesset, and went in and ended up fighting for, I think, 24 hours straight. I still remember some of your stories with the tank that all of a sudden came and you guys start driving around the tank and trying to run
Yeah,
away. So Asher is a dear friend and also someone who has been I would say, in some way, quite active in reading the political map of what is happening in Israel, what is happening in the US. You are an American citizen as well, correct?
yes, yes, I am.
American citizen and an Israeli citizen. And now we want to talk about the last hostage that came back from Gaza. And I actually got triggered by one of your posts on Facebook when you made a post that said that for the first time for more than 10 years, we don't have any more hostages in Gaza.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
Where
thanks
did
for
that?
having me back on the show, and yeah, and let me take straight from that point. Um, so first of all, I think a lot of people from outside of Israel, to them, October 7th is the day that Israel got 255 hostages, and we've been in this battle ever since to return them. But not everyone knows that we've had Hadal Goldin's body, and we've had Oron Shaul, and also two more actually people who crossed with their own will. They a little bit had mental illness, and these people were hostages in Gaza for since 2014, 2015, and I think one of the posts I put up after that is I said Israel finally did how do you say in English? When Hebrew it's tshuva, when you when you finally made up or get, there's definitely a good word for it. When you're forgiven, when God can find, or the people of Israel could forgive the government, or we can forgive ourselves. Oh wait, I don't hear you now.
Israel maybe have reached its own redemption. Maybe that's the word to use.
You could say something like that, but in the Maimonides, he talks about, when we pray before the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, then there's these different halachot, different rules we learn about of how to get God's forgiveness and how can you be forgiven. And one of the
Hmm.
rules is that what does it mean to do true tshuva, to really get to that point where you can be forgiven? It's when you're put in the same exact situation that you were in the past when you did the wrong thing, and you don't do the wrong thing. This time you know how to correct yourself and do the right thing.
You
And
fix it.
Israel was in 2014. It's hard to believe now. It's really hard to believe, but can you imagine? We were at a 35-day war, and that was seen as to be a lot in 2014. And we finished the war with the hostage in Gaza, and that's how it ended. That was the end of the war. It's
Wow.
like you can try to think back on what happened. And the parents of Hadar Goldin, who I actually am in touch with the father, and we've spoken um, throughout the war, then they've been saying for years and years and years, the war's not over until Hadal comes back. What you're doing now is just going to create more terror. And they were right. And, I look back and I say to myself, I remember hearing them, on the news. They'd come up, they'd say, how could we keep going on and not return the hostages? And yeah, and people are saying, okay, it's a body of a hostage, he's dead, and so on. Just like most of the world sees hostages, yeah. Like Trump himself was saying, I don't know why these Israelis are so crazy about bringing back the bodies, but they are. And what we've seen is that the result of not being strong against Hamas and not trying to return Hadal Goldin's body is October 7th. It's very clear that that's the result. It's kind of extreme if you think about it, but the thing is, the only reason we didn't bring it back is obviously because we didn't have the leverage. We were scared of Hamas. We were worried. We didn't want to go into war. And that's all weakness, 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 weakness. And that's where Hamas gained the confidence and said Israel is a weak country. They can't even bring back their own soldier who the country, as we've seen Israelis in nature, that we need our hostages back. and we weren't able to make that happen. And the forgiveness comes after what happened yesterday, 2 days ago. That Guedalia was brought back. They went to a graveyard, took out 700 graves, opened up 250 body bags, and maybe number 251 ended up being Guedalia's body. And this kind of insane, I don't know how to call it, operation in Gaza after they moved the yellow line in order to enable this operation with
Wow.
doctors, with tanks, with combat engineers. Everybody needs to be scanned because it could be booby trapped. And there's the whole operation, and then you have to match the teeth and match the things and see. And the people there, they say, what's been on the news and what they've been saying is they've been doing it, a lot of them, for the whole war or many parts of it. And that the chances are super low every time you bring out a body, and I'm sure you have the smells and you have the things you see when you have to deal with, and the chances are like 0 point something percent it's going to be him. And they do it anyway for that small chance that it could be him. And this is our nation getting together, and finally we can be forgiven for what we've caused by not bringing back Goldin's body and Oren Shaul's body from Hamas back then. And this is a lesson learned the hard way.
Wow. It's quite impressive how it started and how it ended. October 7 really changed the life for all of the Israelis, I think, forever. Brought us to a very new reality that we didn't think it's a nightmare that can happen. Most Israelis were really sleeping when that happened. And then, I think with this story with Guedalia also, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the story of your brother. They were both home, and they were both made the decision to get on their uniform and say goodbye to their families, and they both ran into the fight, into the fire, and they both fought bravely, saved lives. With your brother, we even have videos, and images that you actually showed us, even some of the lives that he saved. And then they both fell on their feet, standing, fighting. I think the most heroic way maybe to go, if you think in terms of someone who's a warrior, who's a fighter, or even just someone who's masculine and manly. I think that's, one of the ways that everybody would imagine, if I'm going to go, is probably either fighting or in my sleep at my 80s or 90s with my family around me. Where did that catch you now that they brought him back and all of a sudden this war is over? We can come and say, in a certain extent, we brought back all the hostages. We devastated and crippled a lot of our enemies in the Middle East. And now we've just brought the last hostage, who was a warrior who went to fight and was brought back at the end. And suddenly it's kind of like all over. Did it make you like think? Do you feel like the war is over? That's my question. Do you feel it's over?
Yeah. I think it's a question that's maybe going around a little bit. To me, it's clear that the war is far from over and not over. But there's a big chapter, maybe one of the most painful chapters, that is over, and that's a huge thing. The war had maybe it was three objectives. The first one in line was to eliminate Hamas militarily and politically. They must be eliminated, not control anyone in Gaza politically, and not have any weapons and military operation. That was the first goal. Probably the second one was to ensure safety of southern Israel and all of the Israeli borders. And I think the third one was to do, the way it was described even, was to do everything possible in order to return as many hostages as possible. And throughout the war, there's been like a battle, and also in the Israeli political landscape, the so-called left was more associated with, let's stop the war, get back all the hostages. The right was saying, which is more the government represented, we first need to destroy Hamas, and through that, let's try to get back as many hostages as we can. And I think Netanyahu did what he does best, which is step between the lines and not do exactly what they wanted and not do exactly what they wanted. And because he knows his profession, his excellence is in understanding what the crowd wants, what the people want. And he realized that the Israeli people wanted the hostages back. It was clear from protests. It was clear from just, how you're talking and seeing what people are saying and thinking. And that's why you have to understand, like, we did give up on a lot of things in order to get back all these hostages. Specifically, some of them, like this one, it was just crazy work of Shabak, of IDF, of figuring out, connecting puzzles and dots. Because from what I believe, from everything I know is from the news, from what I believe, Hamas didn't actually know where he was. I think they said Jihad Islami knew where he was. Only a few people within them knew. The Shabak had to like kidnap a certain one of them, and then he kind of knew, but they had to torture him maybe in order that he actually say, like it's called a, what I've been reading on some Telegram sources that I trust. They have this like way of getting out information in the non nice way when he's not going to give it the nice way, and then they know it's okay. It's in this graveyard. Now what? And okay, let's flip all the graves. So a lot of it is just crazy abilities of Shabak and IDF to get to everything, and some of it is us giving up on killing senior officials and attacking Hamas in certain areas because we prioritized the safety of hostages in a lot of situations above winning the war right now fast
Hmm.
and defeating Hamas, but not all the way. Meaning the extreme would be we could have said, okay, we're stopping everything, give us everyone back. That may have worked, may have not worked. We can argue, but that's not the question because the government did say we're not losing this war in order to get back the hostages. We're winning this war, and that means that we're going to give up things on the way. We're going to move slower. We're not going to go into Gaza City if we can get a stop and get back hostages on the way, and that's in the end what is happening. But just Netanyahu right now, half an hour or an hour came up in a press conference and spoke, and he said very clearly what I hope to hear and what makes a lot of sense and I'd expect, which is the war in Gaza is obviously not over. Hamas
No.
needs to now do the next step, which is disarm and yeah, not going to be and not. So he said two things. One is Hamas needs to disarm, and two, he's not going to put in Qatari and Turkish soldiers on the ground there,
Whew.
and that and that the whole land from the Jordan to the sea is all going to be under IDF military responsibility. I believe he wants something like not the Palestinian Authority, because everyone's against that in Israel already. We understand that that's just another formation of a terrorist group, but some
Hmm.
other Palestinian or whatever you want to call it group of people who will manage the internal things in Gaza. But the IDF will be responsible for, just like happens in Judea and Samaria today. I think that's the kind of picture he's trying to
Yeah.
paint, where IDF has freedom of moving around and everything. And Hamas is obviously disarmed, not existing politically and militarily. He said it's going to happen either the good way or the bad way. That's what Trump's been saying. That's what he's been saying. To give him credit, it's what he said since the first day of the war until now. We could get into later on my criticism of this and why I think it's not perfect, but it's definitely not the worst.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, no, definitely not the
so
worst.
yeah. So if
Definitely not the
you're
worst.
expecting Hamas to just give up all their weapons, then you could expect the war to be over. But I think none of us are expecting them to do that. So I think we could all expect the war to continue.
I'm certain they will not give up their weapons. I don't see any scenario that they will give up their weapons because that will mean the end of Hamas. And you know what? There's so many questions I want to talk about here. But you mentioned that interesting. I also read something about it where the Shabak have tricked one of the leaders of Hamas to think that he is talking to someone else and started like talking, giving him all kind of tasks and missions, and then at a certain point brought him to a point and kidnapped him, and during interrogations find out where were some of the bodies, and then sent Palestinian collaborator to go there. And then that's what I read, and then he went, and the door was locked with a heavy lock, and he was afraid to make noise breaking it, so he called the IDF and his operator, the Shabak, and they made a fake Air Force attack in the neighborhood, kind of where they shot just a few kind of empty fields, I guess, to make noise. And in that noise, he broke the lock and he dragged the body on his shoulders all the way. I don't remember which body was that, but it was
That was
not this
Ohon
guy.
Shola. I read that also. Yeah, it was Ohon Shola. It was the one of the soldiers that was killed in 2014, and his body was kept apparently, from what's told, in that refrigerator of some type in this guy's house or basement or whatever, for I don't know how many years. And yeah, and what you
Who
said I read
keeps a
too on
body in a
that Telegram
what kind
thing.
of citizen? What kind of citizens keeps a body in a refrigerator? That seems like like a national sport in Gaza. We had the severed head that they kept in. Like these are civilians,
Yeah,
allegedly.
yeah. No, look, to their credit, they understand that we value these bodies whole, and they try to keep them whole as much as they can. In a way, once they're in there, yeah. For example, there were people that got their heads chopped off, and they took the heads. I guess they didn't want to carry so much weight. But once it's in Gaza, then they know that we're paying high prices for bodies. That no other country does that. No other country
No.
pays prices, strategic prices like we are doing for bodies. And to me, one of the most important things, because there are now voices in Israel talking about, for example, another soldier who his father spoke in the Knesset. His head was cut off, and I don't remember the name of the soldier right now. I'll tell you, his last name is Zini. I remember that because the Shabak is Zini, but I don't think they're connected. His head was cut off, and they don't have it. They buried him without a head, and I'm sure. Okay, I'm not sure, but it could be some Gazan has some head over there in his apartment, and I don't know what he's doing with it or what he's planning to do with it. And of course, you can imagine what that does to the family, and just
Yeah,
what kind of animals these people are that this is what they do.
that's
But
insane.
the main difference again, why is bringing Vili's body back like the closing of the most painful chapter? Because statistically speaking, and just like rationally thinking, there could have easily been 10 or 20 people that we just don't know what happened to them. And one of those videos that I posted in the last week, it's a video of me in a different podcast talking about how these parents, they could have nightmares that their kid has now been sold to be a slave in some African country, or is now a slave in some Gazan house in some dungeon, because you just don't know what happened. And the minute you know what happened, and you can't really know until you bring back the body or you have half of the body or so on, whatever it's
Hmm.
dead. Um, then bringing back Granville's body was closing that chapter and saying we know what happened to every single one of these 255 hostages, and some of them we were able to bring back alive, some of them were killed in captivity. But at least we did everything we can to know what happened, to bring that information back to the family, which is super important. Even though there are
That's
families
insane.
that,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's
there are
insane. That
families.
no, go
Go
ahead, go
on,
ahead.
yeah. Okay, I'll finish. So there are families that I'm sure it's also a hard day for them because they're well, also Gvili in a way, but yeah, that their children or friends or so whoever it is were killed in the captivity and were taken to Gaza alive, managed to survive for many months, and came out after they've been murdered in Hamas captivity or killed accidentally by IDF, which is obviously
Yeah,
Hamas's
that
fault.
was the hardest one.
Yeah.
That's the hardest story for me. These three brave, civilians that actually survived, managed to escape, and then accidentally got killed by an IDF. On the way back.
Yeah,
That's the hardest. That one hit me really hard. I remember that.
yeah,
There's quite crazy how, and you made a post about it, and that's what kind of also brought my attention, where you wrote. After checking 250 bodies in Gazan cemetery, the body of Rangvili was finally found. I don't feel bad for the Gazans that we flipped through graveyards in order to find out one of ours. Next time, just don't come and kidnap our people. It's really not that hard. What do you feel about that?
yeah. I think it's a message of power. I think the Arab countries around us are seeing how Israel is going into a cemetery, into a graveyard, into one of their Arab countries, so call it Gaza or whatever, and doing
Mm-hmm.
whatever we want because their bodies are worth nothing and our bodies are worth like gold. That's how it. That's just the fact. That's just what happened. And Hamas is
Mm-hmm.
okay with it, and Jihad is because that's what's happening. And why is everyone okay with it? Because Israel's powerful, and Israel could do what it wants, and we care about our people and our bodies. And I think there's many Arab commentators been commenting about this that they wish their government cared about their life as much as we cared about our dead.
Hmm.
And yeah, at some point, I don't say sorry because look, we didn't force you to kidnap our guys, so don't blame us for what we're doing to get them back and how much we
Mm-hmm.
value our bodies. And that's just a situation. And I think the message is super powerful that you don't want to mess with Israel because then this kind of thing happens.
Yeah, I agree, and I think in a very sad turn of events, you can see the difference between Israel to, let's say, Iran. Right now, Israel is so focused on bringing back bodies and saving lives. Iran is so focused on making more bodies and killing more lives. I think, and that's kind of shocked me also. I think, the numbers are going staggering. Like some say 40,000, some are saying even 70,000. And honestly, I don't find it
Wow.
that hard to believe. It might actually be. It's not that it would surprise me. I think the Iranians would, if they can kill more, they will kill more. But when you think about it, in like 4 or 5 days, more people were murdered by the Iranian regime, an Islamist regime, than 1 year war in Gaza, where the IDF was mostly killing terrorists, and often, sometimes, not often, sometimes civilians will die along the way because they will be used as human shields, or they will just be in the wrong place, the wrong time, when a high value target need to be taken down. But the world is just completely silence, and I think that if there was ever a doubt that we're dealing with pure anti-Semitism and hatred towards the nation of Israel, and not with activists who care about human life, now there's no more doubt. No more doubt. Because, they're just silent about what's happening in Iran and everywhere. But let's go to Syria for a second. I don't know if you heard about these guys, Chalutzei Bashan. I started following some of their posts. It's a group of Israelis that think that we should go and take over parts of Syria and create the Bashan belt and not give it back to El Jolani and the new Syrian regime. What's your thought about that?
Yes, first, I think I know this group. I heard about them just crossing the border many times and getting thrown back. Obviously, the way they chose to do it is very, let's say questionable for now. We could say a lot more about that. Let's not talk about
Hmm.
that. Let's talk about the idea of
I love them.
going.
I love them. I think they're
Yeah,
great. I think.
you could say a lot of good things about someone who's willing to go that far to do what they believe.
Mhm.
But yeah, it obviously bothers the IDF soldiers there, and it makes them have to focus more on things they shouldn't have to when they're on the border guarding. But again, at the end, we could talk about that. But I think the question really is what needs to happen in Syria, especially southern Syria, close to Israel. And my opinion, which I can base in a few different ways, is well, first of all, very good that we took what we took for the Hermon, the highest point over there in that mountain,
Mhm.
and more of that belt over there in that area. But in general, I think there should be a very clear rule that you just keep to, which is if you're attacked by another country who's weaker than you, definitely, um, from a certain area, then that area no longer belongs to them, and they don't get the chance to attack you again from there. And that should
Mhm.
be in Gaza, which would happen, and that should happen in South Lebanon, and that should happen also from Syria. And if we've been attacked from those areas, then we can say no more. That's first of all. Second of all, Syria is not really a country. It's not really a nation state. It's many different tribes and different groups that have been fighting for so many years. And then what was it, the French and the British that drew all these lines and said, "Okay, you take this, I'll take that," and then this tribe will get this, the tribe will get that, and try to make these tribal people behave in a Western way, Western society of countries and stuff. And that's why what we see in Syria for years and years is just war, and Iraq and all these places. Unlike
Mhm.
Iran, by the way, which is just a Persian country that has a long history and is a real nation. Um, so this is one thing I like Donald Trump a lot. I think he's better than Netanyahu in many ways as a leader. But I
Mhm.
don't understand. But the one thing I don't understand the most is his take on Syria and why does Syria
Yeah.
have to be united, and why does Syria why stop supporting the Kurds? Why yes support Erdogan? Why be Erdogan's friend? What do you shouldn't you be able to recognize evil just like he's doing in Iran, by the way, and saying not like Biden did with the deal and giving them money and trying to keep them quiet by paying them off. But no, Trump is saying about Iran, these people are bad, and I think he's going to attack there at some point. That's a question of time, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Um, but in Syria, it seems like he's on the side of okay, let Erdogan take it. El Julani, this guy, I trust him to. Okay, he's not a good guy, but he can manage Syria, and it seems that that's the kind of Syria he wants, and it must be for economic reasons, for some kind of gas pipeline or some kind of something basis. I don't know what it is because my opinion is South Syria needs to be Druze and maybe Druze area with the IDF or Israel higher authority, like a Druze
Mhm.
autonomy within Israel, or whatever, just a Druze country. But that's already the next step. And the northeast Syria needs to be a Kurdish country, most probably, or something like that. Like, why do you have to keep it whole? Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
What does this give? What does this give everyone?
I don't understand that also. I'm in many things. I think that Trump is a refreshing voice of leadership that can see between good and evil in a very clear way that other leaders were either hiding or deliberately not seeing. in terms of radical jihad. I'm not entering right now internal politics in the US. I'm not an American. That's not my business. Talking world stage. But the only place that I still don't understand what he's doing is just like you said, Syria. It
Yeah.
seems to be like he had the Kurds there, which were a great ally. They literally helped him defeat ISIS. Brave and progressive in many ways compared to many other Muslims, around, extremely progressive compared to many other Muslim, groups around the Middle East. Very respectful to women, very respectful to other cultures. A real partner that you can actually maybe have peace with. They say they want to have peace with Israel and et cetera, et cetera. And I do believe them. I mean, and the test of actuality is going to be the real test. Is going to happen or not. But in general, they are not as religious fanatics. And all of a sudden, Tom Barak, I think Tom Barak is a big problem here. I think Tom Barak is working very hardly to promote Turkish interests in the region and also Qatari interests. But speaking about Turkey, what's your thoughts? We talked about that if a weak enemy attacks you, and I agree with you, then the good solution would be to go and kick their Tusiks and take what's theirs, punish them heavily, and make sure that they never try to attack you again. Now, Turkey is not a weak enemy. I'm not putting Turkey in the same scale of Israel, but Turkey is a formidable force in the Middle East with a real army, real technology, real secret service, and a lot of, but it looks like Turkey is really trying hard right now to come to the border with Israel. What's your thoughts about that?
I think Erdogan has people have been saying this. He has a very big appetite, and he's trying to bring back in some way the Ottoman Empire. And Syria is a huge win for him now. Him being able to get back Syria, once part of the Ottoman Empire, if I'm not mistaken, obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
recover that. And now he's trying to get as much footing in Gaza and be able to surround Israel from there. He hates Israel. It's not a question. He doesn't want. We think he likes seeing Jerusalem that was Ottoman for I don't know what it was 500 years, now just be under Jewish Israeli control and so on. It hurts. I think it hurts every Muslim in some way. It's probably against the prophecies and probably against what they would like to believe. There are. I would put a side note. There is maybe a very small movement of Muslims which talks about Al-Aqsa being in Saudi Arabia and about that Israel is the land of the Jews, and that's what it says in the Quran, which is true. So I don't give up hope on Islam ever understanding that the Jews, it's Israel. Israel is a country for the Jews and Jerusalem too. But the widespread, I guess, misinformation or information, or however you want to call it, is obviously that Al-Aqsa should not be controlled by Jews and they should not be telling Muslims what to do there. And anyways, Erdogan being a Muslim brother, supporting Hamas heavily,
Yeah.
and definitely missing the days of the Ottoman Empire and the power of the Islamic brotherhood and friendship, then he's working smart and slow and understanding. And now with the balance, and I think the balance of power is now shifting with Iran showing their weakness, and obviously they're on some kind of downfall now where America's trying to catch them and give them the knockout. So yeah, I think he's saying, okay, the Middle East is now in Turkey's hands, and he's going to be the next big guy. He's going to be the next Iran, such as how Iran had their proxies and whatever. He's going to have his way of doing it, and he's going to try to be the
Mm-hmm.
big boss of the Middle East. And I think either he managed to trick Trump into thinking that that's a good idea, or he, or Trump has other plans that he doesn't want to share with us why this is not exactly what's happening. But yeah, I think many Israelis already talking about this. That 10 years from now, Turkey is the biggest issue.
Yeah, I feel like Turkey is completely replacing the role of Iran right now in like copy paste almost. When Iran started being a big advocate, adversary and a big enemy of Israel, they were working first of all from far away, strengthening their proxies around Israel, creating a belt that can attack Israel from around and from inside. And the more comfortable they became and also the more pressure they became, then they started directly attacking us. They didn't never started directly attacking us for a long time. And I feel like, and Qatar was somehow behind, like being the money and some way the brain, I would guess. Iran was the muscle and the tentacles, and then you had the proxies. And it looks like Qatar just shifted right now, kind of went to the back again, and now replacing Iran is Turkey, and their proxy is right now Syria, which, if you ask me, is a way, way worse proxy than Hamas. Because Hamas, to some extent, was geographically contained by Israel to some extent, and a little bit by Egypt. But we had ways to kind of control that border in some way or another. But Syria is like, if you look at the map, guys, like look at this. This is Syria. Like you see Iraq, Turkey. You have like a border there with like it's Iran, it's Jordan. They have like border with, it's completely exposed and just easily to bring hundreds of thousands of jihadists into it, and then funnel them all the way down to the border, like you said, to the Druze area in the south there, annihilate all the Druze and just start living around that border. And slowly, slowly, I think Turkey 5 years, 10 years from now, with a clear hatred toward Israel, will become a serious issue, Iran level, to Israel. And I
Yeah,
mean, it depends also on like how the world politics. Like now, world politics is still kind of, I would not say in favor of Israel, but it's getting worse and worse. So like 5 years,
yeah,
10 years from now, how would then be legitimized to come and start doing aggression against Israel? Might be more legitimized. Europe will become more Muslim. America is becoming more America first, kind of this, young generation that is,
yeah.
going
Isolationist.
around right now. The isolationists, exactly. So I think like this is, and that's what I'm surprising. Like, isn't Trump seeing that? He doesn't care about that. That's the one thing that I don't understand about
Yeah.
the whole Syria thing.
So the one thing I can try to say think in his favor is he's thinking World War III already now. I was speaking to
China.
someone about it this yesterday that you see with Biden and what the previous American administration was showing to the world and making the world feel was definitely not we're scared of America, America strong, because we saw Putin just went in and took Ukraine and or tried to attack and take as much of Ukraine as he can, and so obviously that didn't work. So now China's talking about taking Taiwan, and that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the date that people talk about is like 2027. It could happen later, or so on. But everyone knows that if Putin was talking about Ukraine and then he did it, there's no reason to believe that China talking about Taiwan for years is not actually going to do it. And the two options are either continue how America was before, that didn't work empirically, it just did not work. Putin
Mm-hmm.
kept doing what he did; he didn't worry about it, or change your strategy. And I think what Trump's doing now is good, no matter what the outlook is, because there's two options. Either the way he's behaving now with Greenland and Venezuela and then Iran now is going to cause China to fear America, or China's not fearing America no matter what America does, and then he just has to already improve his strategic stance for World War III. So why get to World War III without Venezuela, without Greenland? Let's get to World War III without Iran. Let's get to World War III in a better position. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever's happening, whether China's going to care or not care about America, how it changed in their strategic, basically how much they're afraid of America, whether that happened or didn't happen. This is it makes a lot of sense to me what Trump's doing, a lot of sense, and this is what had to be done. And someone brave that doesn't really care about being normal and what people think, and European leaders had to be the one doing it, and that's what we're seeing. And I think why I started saying this is because it could be that he sees Turkey as some kind of swing between maybe Russian influence or Chinese. Like Turkey's that kind of country that is good with everyone. They're good with Iran. They're good with Russia. They're good with NATO. They're good. They're in NATO. They're good. They're kind of good with everyone. And he maybe wants Turkish American alliance, Turkish American influence. Just like there's American air bases in Qatar, which makes just American bases in Qatar, which makes the American Qatari kind of influence very strong and takes them out of the Chinese influence. It's all like a matter of balance of powers and who's going to be on your side. And Turkey seems to be, and obviously just geographically and their size and their um, everything they kind of hold is something that America wants on their side. So I can see why Trump is saying, I'm going to give Turkey and Syria what they want. It doesn't come instead of something that I myself think is crucial or strategic or important. And that's why this is a good bet for me. And what we're
Mm-hmm.
saying here is no, Trump. I don't think you're getting it. This guy is not going to be on your side for much longer. Um, Definitely not on Israel's side. So as an Israeli, I can say that this is not what we would want to see.
Yeah, no, I think that's the only explanation that I can somehow kind of, I would say even into some way agree with. If you're trying to isolate China, cut it off from potential allies and bring more alliance strength to your side, and you're looking at the big picture right now of China, Russia, America, which I call them like the big sharks around, the world. Like there's the big sharks and orcas. There's America, there's China, there's Russia, and there's Team Radical Islam Jihad, or Team Islam in general, that is like a tentacle, like in a kraken. And all, like, Europe is like a tuna fish. It's like cute and beautiful, everyone will want a bite of it, but it's irrelevant in like shaping the ocean. And then you have smaller countries, and you just can't swim in the ocean alone if you're not under one of these three. So I think, America is right now trying to bring more and more on her side, and making sure that they don't fall on the side of China and Russia, and weakening them. Mostly, I would say China. China really, like, I think, is the next scary thing. China for the long term, Islam for the short term, Islam, and for the long term, Islam for the long term, just because of how they expand. Usually they come into your society and then they breed, and then they destroy your society from inside. I actually think, what? I think what we're seeing in Iran right now, and we just feel like ping pong here, shooting thoughts with one another. I think what we're seeing in Iran right now is a good wake up call to European countries, especially like the UK and France. What happened when your parents don't resist Islam? Your children will die fighting to get rid of Islam. Like,
Yeah,
Islam came to Iran about 45 years ago, and, well, more, but I mean, like, came with that radical kind
with the
of,
power.
with the power, exactly. And it was ex- it was received by the people who lived there. It was not just by force brought on all of them. It was received by many of them, and the ones who did not like it did not resist enough then, and now their children, young brave women, and you know teenagers, students, girls, and men are just dying in the streets with books in their hands, have no guns, trying to fight this regime because their parents didn't do that fight for them. And I think if anyone have a doubt, how will their country treat its own people in 45 years from now? Then England, France, that's what's going to happen to you guys. Undoubtedly. 45 years from now, or even 25 years from now, you will have your own governments killing its own people when they try to uprise and ask for freedom. And then you'll ask yourself, how did we get here? Well, it's quite easy. How did you get here? Just look around.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah. Europe, Europe has a scary future. I don't. No one really knows exactly what's going to happen. No one knows the future, but it's hard to see an outcome which isn't the Islamic population growing more and more. And as they get larger, they get more power, more control. And with the power and control comes the maybe more showing the different colors, the more extreme colors, and yeah, and taking positions of power. And then once you're in positions of power, you work by what the Quran says and not by what the democratic laws of the country say. But you follow it as much as as long as they served you.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, like who said this? Vance maybe or many that Britain can be the first nuclear Muslim country, even though
Yeah.
Pakistan already is probably, but maybe the, the second.
Maybe the first nuclear Muslim Arab country. Maybe that's,
Yeah, maybe.
it could be. Which, honestly, Arabs are the most aggressive ones in Islam also. So you don't want them to have nukes. In general, you don't want any Muslim to have a nuke, and definitely not a Muslim Arab. Let me just say it that way. And
Yeah.
yeah.
In general, also the whole population collapse in Western society. By the way, this is one thing not going well for China. Right now, I think this week came out the reports that they're averaging like 0.78 kids per family, or
Mm-hmm.
which basically means for every two people come out 0.78. So your population's every generation halving, maybe, or slicing into two. Like not the size of the entire population, but like the generation itself size
Hmm.
is becoming smaller and smaller. And over time, that means I think the prediction is by what was it, the end of the maybe 2100, it means China goes from 1.4 billion to 500 million. That's the number. And
Wow.
that, yeah, America right now is what, 300, 400 million, and they're already more powerful economically than China, probably. Um, so imagine when China goes from 1.4 billion just to 500 million. In general, the downside of being a communist is that people don't want really to live and don't see a reason to have kids, and definitely with the little money you have, working all day from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. in China, with whatever money you have, you don't want to spend it on raising kids. You rather just live however you have to live, and there isn't really hope or love for life. I think I think there's high suicide rates also in a lot of these countries. South Korea has the same problem, which is not a communist country maybe, but maybe something in Western society also, because that is shared, the low birth rates. And Elon Musk talks about this a lot. that the population collapse is a huge threat. In Israel, we do not have that problem
No.
because the religious groups here, also the Arabs here, but religious groups here have very, very high birth rates, and that's why the future is bright in Israel. The economy grows, population's growing,
Yeah.
but Europe, together with the population collapse and with the Islamic spread, and also Islamic Muslims do have high birth rate compared to Europeans, definitely. It's a question, but I think it goes beyond just the things we've been talking about, and it goes much more into theology and into purpose and nationality. And until World War II, there was nation states, and it was a strong thing, and people were proud of the country they were. And then after World War II and the Holocaust, there was like a complete flip to the other side, where people did not want to be really proud of their nation, and it's more globalism. Um, and once that happened, then the Islam took care of the rest and just did
It
the whole
created a
thing.
vacuum. It created a vacuum that was
Yeah,
easily exploited by other religions. Once you kicked out identity and faith, call it, out of your
yeah,
life, it created a vacuum that other faiths and other identities could go in and exploit it. And that individualism of the West is just not working. Like
right. Because
Europe
the
is
thing World War
literally
II
dying.
caused, the thing World War II caused is that the average European no longer feels proud to say, "I'm a proud German, I'm a proud British," or at least wasn't 10 years ago. Maybe at its peak, 10 or 20 years ago,
Hmm.
where I think it's been starting to fight back. And I see people like Tommy Robinson, right? I hope I got his name right, and people like that who are really fighting for the nationality again. Because of this, because there's no reason you shouldn't be proud for who you are, proud for your values. And it's kind of taking, like, okay, so the Nazis said, we are proud Nazis, we're better than everyone else, we're the ultimate race. So now, because that failed, and that was obviously a huge, devastating mistake, then none of us can ever be proud of our values, and we have to all like our values, but also believe in other people's values, and our values are not superior to other people's values, which is obviously nonsense, because values should be your values should be the most superior ones, and if your neighbor has better ones, then you should become him or follow his values. You
Yeah.
shouldn't just say, yeah, everyone should believe what they want, everyone should do what they want, as long as we don't hurt each other, because then the Muslims believe what they want, you believe what you want, and at the end you realize they don't really care about what you care about, and that's what
Hmm.
the West is waking up to.
Yeah. I think a country that allows foreigners and migrants to come to their country, violate their daughters, and just do it like in massive numbers and don't do anything about it is a country that have lost its backbone, lost its identity, and is a country that is not going to survive. I think like if a group of immigrants would have came to Israel and started doing these, sexual gangs against Israeli girls, they will need the army and the police to protect them from the Israelis, you know, because we will come for them. Like who if they would come to a Druze village,
Yeah,
someone will touch our
yeah,
daughters. Like no army is gonna stop us from coming for them. But in Britain, they're just going and doing whatever they want, and the people there are not doing enough to stop it. But also, like I saw an interesting video today showing like the biggest mistake Japan did was Pearl Harbor when they went and attacked America and they paid for it. And then I thought to myself, like some countries have done really big stupid mistakes, and one of them is, let's say, the Gazans and the Palestinians. I think one of the reasons October 7 happened, with all the other reasons, not thinking they're going to do it, and being sleeping over it, and they're not taking the border seriously, was also the thought that there's no way they're going to be stupid enough to do that. Like that was something,
yeah,
like you said,
for sure.
because saw what happened now. Like we literally flattened Gaza. So
Yeah,
you think like there's no way that you're stupid enough to think that you can come and just do what you did and not pay a heavy price. But they were stupid enough to come and do that, and we, were
right.
maybe gullible to not take it seriously. But look what happened now. But then the question remains: is what do you think is the next thing that Israel should do in Gaza?
So I think this is what I started with. Also, it's good to circle back to this, which is Bibi's mindset is like, it's an Oslo mindset. And for whoever doesn't know what Oslo is the deals in 1990. What was it? Two started maybe in the 90s, where Israel, dec- for the first time, recognized a Palestinian entity, which is the source of all evil and terrorism that happened later. And that's what caused October 7th later on, and before that also, because that's what caused leaving Gaza Strip. We had settlements there, It was part of Israel for everything, and then we left Gaza Strip, and Hamas came into power, and so on. So, and I think Bibi doesn't have he doesn't have an alternative in his head. He just doesn't see another option. Like, how could these 2 million Gazans or Palestinians, whatever you want to call them, okay, what are we going to do with them? They have to live. They have to manage themselves. And what we have been saying, maybe the younger generation, maybe you can call it the right wingers or whoever you want to call the group, which is maybe more associated with the right wing parties. Yeah, we need to figure out how to get them out of Gaza. They made the mistake of their lives, and now for their own well being and our own well being, they need to be moved to another country where they can live peacefully and not get into any more fights because we all know that it's just a matter of time until the next war happens, and it's going to be so much faster than anyone thinks. And people's memory is so much shorter than what they believe it is. And I think Netanyahu is thinking 5 years forward, probably. Okay, yeah, like you did in Samaria, and you're going to have the Gazans, they're going to have some police, they're going to manage themselves, and so on and so on. It's not going to last. It's not going to last more than 5 or 10 years max. And then again, there's going to be terrorist groups, and then again, it's always going to be in the debate. Wait, are we going to let soldiers die every week protecting? What do we care about Gaza? Why are we even in Gaza? Let's leave Gaza. And then people are going to say, no, do you remember what happened? And they'll say, okay, whatever, so long ago, we're not doing that. And then we're going to leave Gaza. And then Hamas is going to get into power because Hamas is the Gazan people. That's their
Mm-hmm.
ideology. It's Hamas. And then we're just going to be exactly where we started. So it's like it's a beautiful solution for the next 5 years of peace and winning and so on. But that's not how you win a war against an enemy like Hamas that did what they did on October 7th. The only solution for what happened after October 7th is put them on ships, send them to some other country that wants to get them. And I'm not accepting all these excuses like, oh, no one wants them, no one's going to take them. And I'm not saying to send them to Europe either, because it shouldn't be Europe's problem. But there's enough places in the world where there is very low, where they need people to work. They need people to do jobs. It could be Indonesia, it could be Somaliland, it could be Congo. I don't know where, but there's enough countries that need working a workforce, you could call it, or people to just come and make the population larger. China, maybe, I don't know. Maybe China wants them.
No,
I don't really care. I don't really care because
they
the
won't like
question,
it in China.
the question, yeah, they might not like. They're definitely not going to like it in Gaza because it's just going to be more war. And I don't think they
Yeah,
liked the
yeah.
last 2 years. If they did, they're welcome to stay. If someone really likes the last 2 years, maybe they can stay in their tent that gets flooded every day. I don't know. But they should definitely understand that they're going to have a better life in Somaliland or in some other country. I
Send them
don't
to
all this
Syria.
ethnic cleansing nonsense. Dictionary. It's all complete. Really, whoever invented these terms invented them for their own sake and uses them when they want. It's just how we saw that international law means nothing the minute Trump comes with helicopters and takes Maduro, because it's not international law. It's law of whoever's the strongest and decides what's going to happen. And
Hmm.
for the
It was
sake
always like
of
that. I think it was
for
always
the
like
sake
that,
of
and we just believed the
humanity,
bluff. Yeah.
yeah, for the sake of humanity and for the sake of the Gazan people themselves, someone needs to come up with a plan, like Trump did, kind of, which just sends them out. And I don't want to hear about no country wants them before we actually all agree that that's the optimal plan, and we'd stop talking about ethnic cleansing and all this nonsense, all this progressive terms that mean nothing but continuous war forever because we drew borders at some point which make no sense, and now we're just going to fight forever because we think that no one hates anyone and the world is just a world of I don't know, of live and let live, and there's no such thing as
Fluffies
Islam
and
or
rainbows.
Judaism or any ideologies other than progressive, make up your own gender ideologies.
Fluffies and rainbows. Did you hear that in China they actually that's what I read. They treat Islam as a mental disease and mental disorder, and they go around. It's illegal to practice Islam there, and they have like camps for them and rehabilitation centers for them. I mean, it's funny that no one talks about that. Like literally, they
Yeah.
have concentration camps there for Muslims, and they just see it as a mental disorder. So I don't think any Muslim will be happy to go there. But I'm 100% agree with you. I think this,
Yeah, China probably not, but Pakistan maybe, or the world is huge. Israel's very small. Gaza's even smaller.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
so many places where they could go. And sorry, like you started a war and you lost. So next time win and you'll decide where we're going to go. That's what happened to the Jews in history. We lost wars
Hmm.
and we were told where to go. Wasn't so nice. But that's what happens when you lose. So try
Yeah,
not to
yeah.
lose
They paid
next
the
time. Try
price
not
for
to
two
start a war
thousand
you can't
years.
win. Yeah,
No, I 100% agree with you. I think this progressive kind of mindset of a lot of these things that we're seeing today is definitely not working, and it's actually destroying the West. And a lot of countries are starting to wake up for it now. Like here in Germany,
yeah,
even they're talking about bringing the criminal penalty age down to 13 and even 11. And the reason for that is because there's a lot of migrant gangs at these ages that are terrorizing the streets, and they can't do anything about them. So everywhere they go, they're just bringing a lot of, terrorism with them, civil unrest, criminal, and also
yeah,
threatening the identity. I think Japan came and said clearly lately that we are not going to be like Europe. We're going to have very clear rules about these migrations. We want to kick them out of here. We don't want them here. And everybody knows who you're talking about. Come on. I mean, no one said that when the Italians were migrating to America. Everybody liked that when the Irish migrated. Nobody said that when people migrated to Europe, like the Jews or the Gypsies. And nobody said that. It's when Islam
yeah,
came, all of a sudden, people are talking this. So it's important to call it for what it is. And I think people just don't like, oh my God, people are so sensitive today to the truth. Oh my God, he just spoke the truth. How
yeah,
dare he?
yeah,
he he have no limits. This guy is
yeah,
crazy. He just said what he thinks. You know,
yeah.
it's quite.
Yeah, and look, something does need to be said for the UAE, for example, which is the maybe the example of how I would love to see all Islamic states behave. And just like Christianity had its darker times and its better times, I don't think Islam is inherently like forever going to be the most evil thing. I think they could come to a way how the UAE came to, and understanding the verses of the Quran in a more, call it modern way, or call it just a more clear understanding of how that thing is actually supposed to work in the world that we're living
Mm-hmm,
in, just like the UAE is. And the UAE are the first. I think they banned the Muslim Brotherhood before Israel, or I don't know which other
mm-hmm.
countries, maybe England or. They're the right. There was that article 2 weeks ago that they're stopping to send people to England because they're getting
Yeah,
radicalized by the Islam there.
yeah.
So
I read
yeah,
that.
so I'm sure there's many Muslims out there which we can live very peacefully with. It's just not 95% of them. It's probably just 5% right now.
Mm-hmm,
Which is why if you're standing at the border and you need to make sure your country's safe, statistically speaking, you don't want Muslims because that's what they're doing. Can you
mm-hmm,
pick the 5% which will, you know, understand? Probably won't manage. But the UAE is a beacon of light, you can say. You can see that they're fighting with Saudi Arabia in different regions of the world. Like in Africa, they have, and in Yemen they have, in all different kind of places. There's different proxies or armies. One's backed by Saudi Arabia, which is also a relatively more, I guess, relaxed Islamic state at this point, relative to even Egypt or obviously Syria, and yeah, and you see that the Muslims themselves they disagree, and some of them hate to see what Islam is becoming, just like we do. So
yeah.
important to say that too.
No, it's important to say that. And I think the only way for Islam to ever be able to move forward is by adapting, unless they don't want to coexist. If they want to coexist with the West, they have to move forward like the United Arab Emirates and some way Saudi Arabia as well. I think the key for me, the key factor is the moment that they will stop wanting to conquer you and convert you by force. And when you look at, let's say, countries in Europe, you don't feel like Holland is waiting for Germany to fall asleep so that they can jump on Germany, slaughter all their men, take their women, and force them to eat waffles. Like you don't see
Yeah,
that. You don't see in the Christian world and in the Western world. You don't see that anymore happening. Even in South America, you don't see that much. I mean, there's a lot of drugs and cartels, etc. But you don't see a lot of much like nation
yeah,
wanting to conquer other nation as bad,
yeah,
and that's people that you can live with. But with most of
yeah,
the Muslim world and a lot of the Muslims, there's that hidden thing that once we become the power here, we will force our way on you.
yeah,
And the Jews don't do that. They don't do that. The Druze don't do that. The Christians, there used to be time that they used to do that, but the Christians stopped doing that. And now, yeah, you'll have Christian here and there that will pray that you come to Jesus and pray like them and see things like them. Okay, fair
yeah,
enough. I someone can pray that you join his CrossFit club. That's some kind of a religion sometimes that you become a
yeah,
vegan like him. I've seen people
yeah,
that are fanatic about different other ideas, but they
yeah,
don't come into your house and kill you and then take your little girls and try to convert them. That's only done in Islam. The only place right now that we
Yeah.
see where men are jumping into other people's houses, killing them and taking their daughters and doing terrible things with them and forcing religion on them is right now Islam. And I think once Islam will stop behaving like that, trying to
Yeah.
force its religion agenda, that's the day that you say, "Oh, I feel safe."
Yeah.
And I think that's what
Yeah.
the Dubai is doing. And others, that's where people feel safe there. People go
Yeah.
there and say that, well, it's safer than Europe, safer than Israel. Like I
Yeah.
feel very safe there because they don't feel that threat. And they're Muslims and they're very religious and they're very traditional, but they don't feel that threat that these people are looking, think like, okay, let's see. Once he put his guards down, we're gonna take
Yeah.
him. And I
Yeah.
think that's a key. That's, at least to me, that's a key factor.
Yeah, yeah, and I think something a lot of people don't like to hear. I think it all connects. I want to try to connect a few things with what I'm going to say now. Um, you see, there. I don't think there's anything wrong inherently with Islam wanting to be the whole world to be Muslim, or a Christian wanting the whole world to be Christian, or a Jew wanting the whole world to be abiding by some kind of Jewish law. Like Jews don't actually want everyone to be Jews. You could be Jews, but everyone's allowed to be Jew. But
Yeah.
keeping, for example, the seven mitzvot of Noah, the
Mm-hmm.
seven commandments of Noah. So there's nothing wrong with that because it's natural. Because if you believe that Muhammad is the prophet, and if you believe that, then you want good for everyone. And if you're a good person, then you want everyone to have the ultimate good and have heaven. And if you're a Christian, then that's the same thing you want. So that makes sense, and that's fine. But the difference is, do you believe actually that the truth is just going to come out if you do the right thing? And the right thing is to live the right lifestyle and to be an example, to be an example for the other nations, example for yourself, for your own nation, and make people want to be like you in a positive way? Or are you going to do it through jihad of the sword and kill people? So if the UAE in their hopes and dreams wants the whole world to be Muslim, I have no problem with that. That makes a lot of sense. They probably should because they believe that Islam is correct and that's the way you should live. But the question is, so the same thing goes for Israel and Greater Israel and conquering of the map of Greater Israel, including Jordan and Syria, and people will blame Israel for just wanting to conquer other nations. At the end of the day, we're like doing the exact opposite in practice, which is also bad. Yeah, we shouldn't be leaving Gaza and leaving South Lebanon and leaving these places we fought and died in because of terrorists and letting terrorists go
Yeah.
back there. That's the other extreme, which we shouldn't be doing either. But the idea is that Israelis, Jews don't believe that you need to go out and kill people in order to expand and show and whatever fulfill some kind of borders. It's more a
Mm-hmm.
matter of the prophecies say that if we do what we need to do, then these will be the borders and we could also just see how that happens. How, for example, southern Syria could be easily part of Israel and the Druze can be an autonomy within it, and that could fulfill some kind of prophecies that Jews have about those areas being part of Israel, and all of that through peace, all of that just in a greater way, in a way of defeating terror, in a way of getting it away. And there's no reason for Jordan also not in 20 or 50 years to decide, okay, we also want to be part of Israel because Israel is the new whatever nation. Like that's how Israeli Jews see it. Like we're going to build a high tech nation. We're going to be the most powerful economy. We're going to create the best things for the world, and then we're going to fulfill the prophecies of being a light to the nations. That's how we see it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean we're going to go tomorrow because like deep inside, like we're talking nicely on video and so on, but deep inside, all we want to do is go with our guns and kill Jordanians. Like that's obviously in practice, we could have done that a million times over. We never did it. And in places we should have done it, like Gaza, we didn't do it because they're terrorists and they tried to kill us and we didn't do it. And then they did come and kill us.
Mm-hmm.
So that just proves, yeah, that the core issue is not me wanting other people to share my beliefs. I think that's natural and that's good. It's, do I believe that my beliefs are actually true and the truth will show itself? All I need to do is follow the right way, or do I
Mm-hmm.
now, does my belief include me having to go slaughter people if they don't agree with me right away?
Hmm. Did you
So
hear something about Jordan today? I before the show, I uh, I got like a notification that there was a rumor that there was might have been something that happened in the border with Jordan.
yeah, there
Someone.
was. I also saw that before. I think it was just another one of those. Like what they've been saying now is it's another one of those. How do you say? Weapon deals on the border that's always happening. People smuggling weapons across the border, and it just went
Okay.
wrong because what they saw is like people crossing, running back, and so on. They're always. How do you think Hamas had so many weapons, and how do you think people in Judaists have these weapons. They're always smuggling weapons from Jordan, from Egypt. It's constantly happening. And yeah, sometimes it goes wrong, and then it looks like they're trying to break in. And one day they will try to break in from Jordan, so we're on high alert.
Yeah, for sure.
The Houthis from Yemen are obviously they're talking about marching from Yemen through Jordan and coming and attacking us. So can't take that
There's enough
lightly.
Palestinians. There's enough Palestinians in Jordan that hate us. I was there several times, a lot of
Yeah,
times, and there's a big Palestinian community there, and they don't like us at all. So I won't be
yeah,
surprised. I mean, we had in the past, terrorist attacks that happened from Jordan. Just a truck driver or someone will come to the Allenby Bridge or something, will
yeah.
just try to do crazy stuff. A quick yes or no question: should we give back Syria, the parts that we took already? Should we give it back to the Syrians?
Of course not. No question. No question.
Absolutely
That
not.
you need it strategically. You need to put your I don't know what you put on the top of the mountain there, but it's your eyes. You can see further. You can make sure no one attacks you, and there's no reason you
Hmm.
should give it back to a country run by ex ISIS. That would be complete crazy. Yeah, well,
Completely
I'm saying the
stupid.
opposite. You have to take South Syria and make it a Druze autonomy and have Israel's border move up to there.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. Should we allow Turkey to be a mediator in Gaza? Should we allow them to come to Gaza and uphold the peace?
Yeah, as little Turkey as possible is what should happen. Trump made this what did he call it? Peace committee or something, and Turkey is included and Qatar is included. And the reason is because I think he's just trying to include all the countries and make something alternative to the UN. He's not a big fan
Mm.
of the UN. Now Israelis are seeing that as, oh look, Qatar and Turkey are now going to decide what's happening in Gaza. Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of having an alternative UN decide about things, and you need just as many countries as were invited, which is like almost everyone, I think, to be part of it. So I don't see that as like, oh, we brought Qatar and Turkey into Gaza. The minute there's decisions that are made that were sourced in Qatar and Turkey and they're passing, then I'll believe that Qatar and Turkey are in Gaza. Or obviously, if there's soldiers there or people that are Qataris or Turkish walking around. Until then, that's not the case. I'm more worried about some kind of fake Palestinian authority, which is just like going to be the PLO dressed up in some other kind of color uniform, which is basically the same exact people with a different name and a different look. And it's all going to get back to Hamas. Or Hamas themselves, like saying, yeah, we left our weapons behind. Now we're just going to be part of this new organization. Same people, same ideologies, same, and also definitely don't want the same funding from Qatar, from Turkey. Like we don't want to see Qatar and Turkish money going into Gaza.
Mm.
So
Mm.
Krishna is talking about this whole rebuilding plan, and I don't know what he has in his mind. I really don't know if he actually believes what he's saying, or if he's just saying it because he needs to say something before the next part of the war, where that whole thing goes up to chaos again.
Mm.
It's hard to believe that there's going to be another outcome other than Gaza City being the next center of war. But who knows? No one really knows the future. Just can
I
assume.
think we need strong leadership in Israel that is visionary oriented and doers, like Trump in some actions, that sees and knows what he wants and just do it, and not a
Yeah,
reactive government. And I think, with all due respect, even though Israel woke up after October 7th, did a lot of crazy stuff, we still have this reactive DNA in our government and in our society, where we mostly react to what's happening rather than shape the reality
yeah,
around us. And I think Israel should definitely reshape the Middle East in its image. I'm saying
yeah,
that as a minority who grew up and was born and raised in Israel, and I'm so lucky, among the lucky ones, that actually got to live in a Jewish state under Jewish government and Israeli government. And thank God that I was not born in Lebanon or in Syria or in Jordan or in Iran and other places. Look what's happening there. And I think everybody in the Middle East will benefit by Israel reshaping the Middle East in its own image. And by that, also pulling muscles to the other ones. Turkey, go
yeah,
back. Don't come close here. Syria, try one small thing, will flatten you. Like, really, Israel should start behaving like a mini America, I think, in the Middle East, and it will just do good for Israel and for the people around. And you'll see, like, a lot of people want to become part of America. They want to run to America because they know they have better life there. And I think a lot of
yeah,
people want to come to Israel in the Middle East because they know they get better life here. But right now, Israel is not really behaving to its full potential,
yeah, yeah. And
where,
I
where
think
it should be.
the source of the issue, in a way, is Bibi Netanyahu, with all of the credit that you need to give him for not being a woke leftist that would have given up the war and lost this war for us, which was very possible with Lapid
Mm-hmm.
and people like that being in government. At the end of the day, he's not a visionary. He's not a he's a hyper rationalist. He's a hyper like this is what's possible and this is how we're going to work and he's not someone that looks 10, 20, 50 years forward and says I'm going to make a crazy transformation here that no one believes is possible, like Trump, by the way, because
Mm-hmm.
Trump can just be like, yeah, okay, we're just going to kidnap this guy from Venezuela and it's going to be cool and everyone's
Let's
going to be
take
fine with it.
Greenland. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to take Greenland, we're going to reshape the whole world, and he's doing it. um, like Israel had these leaders. I think Ben Gurion was this kind of leader, and people that made decisions that were controversial, that were super risky, that could have ended our existence, but was at the end what promised our existence and was
Mm-hmm.
essential and necessary risks that we had to take. And Bibi's not really willing to take them. And I think the next election is going to be in Israel about Gaza, first of all, what's going to happen. And I am a huge fan and a huge voice for, well, not such a big voice, but more like I put all my voice to it. Settle in Gaza. We need to build settlements in Gaza. And the reason is IDF exists where settlements exist. And I think the political map and also the history in Israel, it shifted. And we're not going to, settlements will not be cleared anymore because the population shifted and there's no more majority anymore for removing a settlement as there was in 2005 when it happened. Also, that questionable majority, if it really represented the government, because people were lied to by the government.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like, look at Southern Lebanon. We didn't have settlements, so we were there. The army was there for 20 years. But at some point, there was nothing
We
really to
left.
protect, and soldiers were dying, so we left. So if you have settlements there, like in Judea and Samaria, then you have to be there. And when you have to be there, then there is no October 7th because you have to go into the terrorist homes and take their guns every single night so that your settlements don't get slaughtered. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like kind of counterintuitive, but that's just what you need to do. You need to build settlements, then the IDF is going to have to be there, then the IDF is going to have to keep it safe, and then you're not going to be attacked by 6,000 terrorists one bright morning on October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like the most practical nearby goalpost or something target that needs to be marked. And I think it could very well be that the next election will be about this question in one
Mm-hmm.
way or another. And I'll tell you maybe something that I hope will happen is Bennett will now fool the other side and and get his 20 votes and join the Likud or whoever is going to lead the Likud, probably going to be Netanyahu. The guy's also getting old, so it's going to only be for so long. But
Mm-hmm.
and together, there's going to be some kind of majority because Bennett used to be the guy for settlements. He used to be the head of the settlement committee or whatever in Judea and Samaria. So there is a majority for it, and I hope that's what's formed.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what also, what's their name? The Khalutza Bashan are saying the same thing about Syria. I used to, I'm a different person when it comes to my opinion about settlements and also a lot of Palestinians and etc. Before October 7, after October 7. I was never naive and woke, but I'm like now full on. Bring Jewish settlements, put them in Gaza, kick these guys somewhere else. We don't want them here anymore. Go to Syria. It's only infested with Al Qaeda and ISIS. And look what they're doing. They're freeing the ISIS prisons. Like that's the first thing they do.
Yeah,
And they go and they're humiliating Kurds, old men and, violating women. Like kick them out. Khalas with them. Kick them out. Put Jewish settlements there. Bring the Druze. Bring the Christians. Bring the Kurds. Bring people around. Create some kind of a belt and a coalition and a federation around Israel with all the normal people that want to live, that want science, that want progress, that want peace, that don't want to massacre and kill one another. Bring them, and then you'll have like the Middle East will become the most fertile, richest, most blessed place on the face of this earth. It will have so much blessing here from the Jewish mind and technology all the way to the culture and strength and power and manpower of everyone around it. As long as you kick these jihadists, the Palestinians. Palestine is a terrorist state. People like, it's a country that does pay for slay. It's like, I don't care. Samantha, go back home. John Mahmoud Abdul Jabbar, nobody care what you think. Palestine is a terrorist state. They do pay for slay. They teach children from a young age that they should become suicide bombers, and they name schools after suicide bombers. Like, you can't be more terrorist state than that. So, khalas with the nonsense. Go home. And Syria is like a terrorist state on steroids. It was literally Al Qaeda and and ISIS who kidnapped the country. They're not even hiding it. Like
Yeah.
every second soldier, they have a patch of ISIS and Al Qaeda. So I think Israel should definitely put settlements, and I agree with that. When these Khalutza Basham, when I was talking to them, I interviewed one of their founders in my show, and he was telling me like wherever there is a Jewish settlement, the IDF is there, and it becomes a border. It becomes a border, and then brave Israelis that want to live there, knowing the risks, they will go and live there, and they will count on themselves and the IDF to come and protect it. Someone actually made a comment in the beginning. I just want to put it because I think it's a funny comment. Mansu, I noticed that Druze villages didn't have security around them, unlike the kibbutzim and the mahavim. I don't know what's a mahavim, but let me ask you, why do you think that's actually a good point, Asha? Why do you think Druze villages don't have security around them?
Yeah, I think the Druze get it right in that sense that there was that story of the Druze that went into Jenin and
Mm-hmm.
he was killed and they weren't returning his body or something, and then like the whole yeshuv or whatever you guys call it got
Mm-hmm. The
together
village.
and was about to, yeah, was about to raid Jenin and get into a fight till the final blood over there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and by the way, there are some Jewish settlements deep inside these this what do you want to call it, West Bank or Judea and Samaria, where there is no fence because the Arabs know every other guy there is, or everyone is armed,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't mess with them. I think Batayin is one of them. Maybe Tzal is one of them, but definitely Batayin.
No, that's
So
true.
it's just it's a matter of mindset. You shouldn't, and we've been talking about that the whole time. That the government's, they shot rockets. So then we built, we made our kindergartens rocket proof, so that you can stay in the kindergarten and not have to go to a safe room for the siren. And then they shot RPGs. So we planted trees, and you see that in southern Israel. There's like these lines of trees, so that the RPGs won't be able to put their laser on the buses they were going to blow up. That they actually did manage to blow up once or twice. And then they wanted to run across the border, so we built a huge fence and we dug a hole and everything. It's so the wrong mindset. All you had to do was, they have rockets, you go and you kill them. They
Mm-hmm.
have RPGs, you go and you kill them, and that would solve the problem. And that's the
Yeah.
mindset that needs to be, and it's completely flipped. Yeah, so the Jews are right in that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You don't
Hit
need a
hit the
fence. You don't need. Yeah.
hit the
The
root cause
Iron
no
Dome,
you
in a way, it's our biggest curse, the Iron Dome, because, and that's true, because without the Iron Dome, we would never have gotten to the situation we got to. We'd have to fight Gaza much, much earlier. But the Iron
mm-hmm.
Dome is what enabled us to push it off and push it off and push it off and push it off. So enough with the
It's
Iron Dome nonsense. Yeah.
it's like a sedative. It's like a sedative. It makes you feel comfortable, so you never reach the threshold where you say enough is enough. But then what happened is when you reach that threshold, it's gonna be way, way worse than before. But I think you
Yeah.
nailed it. I think that's the reason to answer Uzziah, they
The art
are
down.
Uzziah the Art Down. Cool name. So to answer his question, I think Asha nailed it here. I think the reason that the Druze don't have as much security, if at all, and the reason that you almost never have suicide bombings and terrorist attacks on Druze, although they hate the Druze more than the Jews, guys, just to let you know. A lot of times they hate the Druze more than they hate the Jews because they see us as traitors also, and etc. But they don't dare to go and attack a Druze village because they know that if they will come and attack a Druze village, that entire village and the entire community will go to where that happened and would literally wipe down an entire Palestinian village, wipe it out of the map, just completely demolish it, and no one will stop them. So they know, all right, let's do an attack on the Jews because they're soft. They're gonna cry. They're gonna send a few special forces. They're gonna raid the house, very humanitarian wise, by the way. They're gonna come. They're gonna clear the area. They're gonna make sure no one is getting hurt. They're gonna go inside, take that terrorist in a very sexy way, go out, clap themselves on the hand. But then the entire Palestinian village is laughing. Okay, good. Let's do it again. Next time we'll fight them even more because they see it like, bring it on as a challenge. But they know that if they will attack a Druze village, they will just come and just destroy and burn down this whole village. Literally, just kill everybody there. Like, no questions. They will make them all run into Jordan. They will chase them and try to kill as many of them before they reach the border. Actually, the crazy story, one time my grandfather, he received a tzalash, which is like a medal of honor, kind of call it, if that's the right way, because there were terrorists that came from Jordan into Israel, and they attacked, I think, a kibbutz or a settlement in Israel. And then they ran. And then my grandfather, he heard about it. He jumped on the Nagmash. He was an officer, and he chased them and started fighting them, and then they ran back into Jordan. So he broke into Jordan after them, and he got orders from the IDF to stop and come back, but he didn't listen to the orders, and he went inside of Jordan and run them over. Basically, made a pancake out of them, and with the machine gun shot everyone who was running away and killed them all, and came back to Israel. I think it was like maybe 12 or 13 terrorists. He got a AK-47 as a gift from the Ramatkal back then, like a loot of
Wow.
war, an
Yeah.
upgraded gun. And anyway, so he got a talash for that, which could have been easily a talash. But when they asked him, why did you do that? He says, you don't stop a charging horse. You don't stop. Like,
Yeah.
you need to speak their language. You chase them to where they are, you kill them where they are, and they learn. If you don't do that, they're going
Yeah.
to attack you again tomorrow. And I think that mentality, the Druze understand that better. Some Israelis understand that better, but many still don't. Westerners completely don't understand that. When you are in the Middle East, you need to speak the language of the Arab man. And if you don't speak the language of the Arab man, they will take advantage of you. And you'll end up, just like you said, there's also protective measures of reactive. It's never the solution. The solution is Hamas sent 3,000 terrorists into Israel, go and flatten all of Gaza. Don't do that again. Syria
Yeah.
tried to do something stupid, go and hit them really hard. So they don't. That's the only way. The only way, and I always say that:
Yeah.
power and respect. No other way. Whew. Asher, we spoke for a very long time here, but I always appreciate you coming on the show, man. And thanks for sharing with us. Um, Regarding Gaza, so maybe just to summarize it or sharpen, the last question I want to ask you: do you think Israel should intensify its military operation in Gaza right now to go and kill Hamas? Or do you think we should keep trying to some kind of reach some negotiation for them to surrender and give back their weapons?
I think if I was prime minister right now, then I do the following. One is you have 2 weeks to send out 60,000 Kalashnikovs to the border and disarm. 2 weeks go, or even 1 week. I don't know how long it takes. That's maybe they'll surprise you. Who knows? But that's what the deal says, so we're good with that. They don't do it. They make excuses and start saying things. Okay, 2 weeks are over. Done. Now we're doing it our way, and you just do a siege. Stop all aid to Gaza. No more aid goes into Gaza, and whoever wants to come out and be moved to somewhere with aid, then can come out. And Gazans that prick up their hands in a white flag and want to go live peacefully somewhere, they come. First, they come to an Israeli camp. In the camp, they're fed, they get the bed, whatever. News outlets can come interview them. Where do you want to go? What do you want with your life? They'll say, I want to leave. I don't want to be here. Great. They're going to get on buses one day, get a ticket, get $1,000 check, or maybe more. Who knows? And go live somewhere else. Meanwhile, Hamas is going to barricade themselves in Gaza, but they're going to run out of water. Food, they're not going to run out of so fast because they have food in their tunnels for maybe a year forward. But water, they're going to run out of eventually. By the way, this is also Eitan Mol, the hostage from Gaza. I heard him speak in person, and he was talking about this, that he was told when Israel came to do the siege on Gaza, right before this ceasefire, he was the one bringing down food for like, I don't know how, weeks, bringing down food, preparing the tunnels for staying down there. And he said, food they're not going to run out of, but water they're going to run out of. And that's also what we know in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they're just going to die of thirst or pick up their hands. But I wouldn't send in soldiers and tanks, which I fear the IDF is going to do because we're such a stupid army with all these rules. And look, we're amazing at a lot of things, but at certain things, it cannot explain it. But who knows? Maybe I'll be surprised for the good, and this is what we'll actually do. Just complete siege, no trucks. Right now, I don't know, 60 or 100, or I don't know how many trucks are going in a day. It's completely crazy. They're just feeding Hamas, giving them money, building them up, which is why the bringing back of Guedalia, by the way, is super good because it ends the first chapter officially, and we could move on to the second chapter, which is in Israel's interest to move on to the second chapter of disarm or die. And that's it. After the siege, Hamas dies of thirst. We go in when they're weak and dead, or they all came out and surrendered. And Gaza's empty. Gazans live in other countries, and Hamas is dead, and Israel is winning. End of story. Happy ending. That's how I see it. And it's really not that hard. It's really not that hard. The only thing that's hard is internal legal issues. We had a very problematic, let's put it that way, internal legal. I don't even know what to call that position. Attorney something, whatever the patzavit. I don't know what position that is in a. But she,
Good luck. I don't know how to say that in
yeah,
English.
I don't remember, but she's like in the army in charge of the legal issues, and if you're allowed or not allowed to do certain thing with the laws of war and she's completely
Mm-hmm.
progressive, completely making up that we couldn't do things that everyone knows you could do, and it's by law. So she's been caught for lying about the video of she actually leaked the video and then lied about checking it, and she leaked the video that
Yeah.
as if Israel was Israeli soldiers were raping a Palestinian, which wasn't even true. Wasn't it, they weren't even charged for it. And not only did she leak the video, which was fabricated, as in it was kind of like edited to show something which didn't happen, she was also then the one in charge of figuring out who leaked the video, and she lied that she checked who did it. So
Yeah.
anyways, she's out. We got a new guy. He's speaking right. He seems to be a better guy. So the chances of this actually happening are is higher. I still don't trust Bibi and the current general. I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're good. Again, it could have been much worse. Herzi Halevi was terrible. Attorney General, someone saying. Herzi
Yeah.
Halevi was terrible when it came to how do you plan on defeating Gaza. He was doing that whole you go in, you I don't know, go to Beit Hanun, you fight there, lose 10 soldiers, come out. Go in 2 months later, fight the same Hamas in the same tunnels, come out. Shitat Pshitot it was called, like the raids.
Raids. Yeah.
Yeah, raids, and then the new guy Yad Zamir, he already understood. Yeah, we're just taking territory, and that's why we do control 54% of Gaza or more at this point. But again, progressive values did go into our army, and I hope the ones making the decisions now won't be affected by them, and we'll just be able to make this super simple plan. Israeli soldiers don't have to get killed. Gazans don't have to get harmed. By the way, this is the plan that will harm the least Gazans. The only ones that will be harmed will be terrorists that want to die of thirst. All the other ones will just come out and find a new home somewhere. Okay, and if they're really stubborn about living on those sands with their tents flooded every day and in war every 3 years, then you should ask why, and it's probably not for a good reason.
Hmm.
So
You know what? I'm trying. I'm really closing my eyes right now and trying to think of how can I counter your argument, and I don't find a way. Honestly, because I know that people back home, some of my friends also will probably tell me like, I was too extreme what this guy said, but like, okay, then give me a better solution. Seriously, a solution that will have less Palestinians killed, if you care about that, and also solve the problem so not more Israelis will be killed in the future and won't have to deal with this nonsense. And I think that's a good idea. I think that
yeah,
was a solid plan
and
what
it's
you
going to
gave right now.
be Judean, Sumerian, Palestinian, Arabs will see this and understand what's coming the minute they decide to act like that. And you break it up. And if in Hebron or if in Shechem or if in Jenin there's a population which does this, then that population will get the same exact treatment. And in South Lebanon, that exact treatment. And that's just what's going to happen to any population that threatens Israel. And then they'll know and they'll realize, okay, maybe in 100 years, not now. Let's rest for 100 years with our Islamic conquests and wish for the all Jews to die. Yeah, let's just give it another 100 years and then wake up and see what happens. I'm okay with that. We'll meet in 100 years. Our grandkids, your grandkids. I hope we'll still be the ones in power to protect ourselves. But yeah,
Yeah, I doubt that they're gonna advance technologically for the next 100 years. I think the West, if they survive their invasion of them coming inside us and trying to like take us from inside, the West will keep advancing. I don't think they would. I mean, looking at what's happening in Gaza, Palestine, and Syria, they don't have the
yeah.
tendency to
But you
actually to
see,
go.
our biggest threat is ourselves. That the West collapsed not because the Russians in the Cold War won, because it was too good in the West and everything was too easy and America was too
Hmm.
strong. And then it was time to create 72 genders and paint your hair blue and yeah, and just shout "Free Gaza" and so on. Like that's
The Chinese actually have a term for that. The Chinese have a term for like a dictionary term for woke and Western activism. I forgot the name, but it's hilarious because they say these are self-destructive Western people who, when a terrorist attack happened, they will first go and check if the terrorist is okay before they will come and check if their own people are okay.
yeah,
They hate their own self so much, they are inevitably will always invite foreign enemies of their society to come and destroy them. So they like have a term for it, and they're not mocking it. It's like a doctor
yeah,
giving a diagnosis. They're just looking at these
yeah,
purple hair girls in Michigan and Oregon and thinking like, that's so weird. These people are weird. Like they're gay, they're LGBTQ. Why are they pro Palestine? Like that doesn't make sense.
yeah,
Like they're just looking at it
yeah,
like clearly. This doesn't make
yeah.
sense. I forgot the name for it, but they have a cool name for that. But yeah, well, Asher, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you coming and jumping on my
Thanks
show
for
in such a
having
short
me.
notice. And anytime, man. And I really hope that Israel will finish the job. And I hope that the blood that was sacrificed by brave, heroic men and women in Israel that went and fought and gave up everything that they have will not be in vain, and that we will not just go back to where we were, and that the leadership in Israel would look forward and say, how can we really ensure that it's never again, and also that this region will one day become prosperous and full and peaceful. And the only way for that is to actually know the difference between good and evil, and know how to fight evil and how to protect good. So,
Amen.
Asha, amen to that, brother. um See you next time, man.
See you next time. Thanks for inviting me.
Anytime. Ciao, guys.